What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope we're all doing well. Back in the studio, I figured out all the issues. So we're back in the studio. Hope you enjoyed my little video. That was online that was a virtual podcast yesterday. Did a little short thing. I might start doing that, not virtually, but I might start doing just one small topic. Kind of ranting about a little bit. Like a 10-15 minute little thing. Just allows me to get some more content out there. Post nothing to show it all. If something comes up in my schedule. No, I haven't been doing anything on Thursdays because of my schedule. So, but I'll do it in person as opposed to it being 30, 40, 50 hour long plus podcast. It might just be like the guest is only 8 or 9 minute podcast. It might be an 8, 9, 10, 50 minute podcast. So we're doing those maybe once or twice a week or so going forward. But today we got a lot to cover, so let's jump right in. Let's talk about the NBA standings. Boston Celtics continue to just roll over the entire NBA, 44-12. They're just such a great team. You obviously got Jason Tatum, who's obviously one of the league's best players, averaging 27, 8, and 4 right now. Jaylen Brown is an all-star player. Porzingis has had a really good year. Derek White's been really good. Obviously, Drew Holiday is an incredible defender, and he can score. They're just an incredible team. Second right now is the Cleveland Cavaliers at 36 and 18. Continue to just roll. They lost their last game coming out of the break. NBA just came out of the All-Star break, but they've been playing some phenomenal basketball. Third is Milwaukee, 35 and 21. There's a lot of weird stuff going on in Milwaukee. You got Dockers went on a podcast and it's like, when the Bucks called him about the head coach opening, it was like, why did you do this? He said he was confused himself. And obviously they've lost. They've lost 7 of 10 since they brought him in. He said it's been hard on expecting, and then Giannis kind of said the same thing. A lot of complaining going on. It's been stuff. Should Donas be on the team? Dame just had to go on some podcast saying he thinks people that think they can beat him, couldn't beat him one-on-one. He's a good locker room guy. There's a lot of weird stuff going on in Milwaukee. Knicks are in 4th, 34 and 22. They had picked up a win against Philly last night. Big win there. They have been struggling going into the break. They have a lot of injuries. Got a little healthier last night. Got back Isaiah Hartenstein, their big man. He had missed the last 2 weeks. He got back DiVincenzo. Missed the last 2 games heading into the break, and Bogdanovich missed the last game or 2 heading into the break. Bogdanovich actually had a big game, so they're getting healthier. Randall seems like he's getting closer. OG Anunoby is definitely getting closer. So Knicks are very close to getting their full team back, and this team is healthy. This team is a phenomenal basketball team, and I think it's a chance to go to the finals. But they pick up I thought it was a well-needed win against the Sixers. Again, got a little healthier. Philly, speaking of them, they are in 5th. Obviously, they are struggling without Joel Embiid. 6th is Indiana Pacers. 32 and 25. They have a 6th spot in the Eastern Conference. First playing team is the Orlando Magic, 31 and 25. 8th spot is Miami at 30 and 25. They're a half game behind Orlando. The 9th spot is the Chicago Bulls, 26 and 30. And in that last team in the play-in is Atlanta at 24 and 31. Brooklyn is 3 games out. Of course, they just fired their coach, Jacques Vaughn. They promoted Kevin Ollie, their top assistant, to be the interim head coach. No surprise there. He was at UConn for a little while back, and he's gotten some. He was doing something. I think he was very involved with maybe like that G League program, the G League Ignite program, or something. He was very involved with that. The Manets brought him in last year as an assistant coach. He's right now the interim coach in Brooklyn. He's got some NBA head coach buzz the last couple years. I think Detroit interviewed him before they brought in Monty. I don't think Kevin Allen was an NBA head coach, but anything by Meredith Monty Williams, Lord, he's an overrated head coach. He's doing an awful job in Detroit. But, Brooklyn, they're obviously in a rough spot. And, their first game with Kevin Allen as the head coach, they lost by 30. I don't know what they're doing over there. Toronto, obviously, is retooling. And then Charlotte, Washington, Detroit round out the East. Again, Washington's is only a game better than Detroit. They just benched Jordan Poole. How bad at basketball do you have to be benched by the Washington Wizards? Good Lord. Jordan Poole, what a crazy scenario that is. He comes into the league, some random second round pick no one's ever heard of. His first year, he had a pretty good year off the bench. Played a lot more than he thought because of all the injuries the Warriors had with Steph and Clay missing a lot of time that year. Clay didn't play at all. Steph didn't play a lot that year. Durant had just left. The whole thing of Andre Iguodala, they didn't play him, and they traded him. And then a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, he goes out there, has a great year as their sixth man. Was a big part of their championship team. They give him that big contract extension, but then he completely regresses. Doesn't have a good year last year. And they trade him to Washington after the season. Obviously, the whole thing with Draymond happened before the year, and they never really got over it. And then they traded him to Washington. They thought, he's going to rebound. Klay Thompson went on a podcast, said he's definitely going to be mad. He's going to be an all-star, and he's just been absolutely terrible. I think he might be the least efficient player in the NBA. He's been bad. He's not been good. Him and Kyle Kuzma we're gonna both, be, if nothing else, very exciting duo. A lot of swag. If nothing else, we both score 20 points a game. For a team that's probably going to be very bad, but has not really worked out that way because Jordan Poole has been absolutely terrible. Western Conference, Minnesota Timberwolves lead the Western Conference 39-16. Second is Oklahoma City Thunder. They're a game out. And third is the Clippers, 36-19. Fourth is Denver, 37-19. By Nikola Jokic had a triple-double last night. He's now the third player in NBA history along with LeBron and Russell Westbrook to have a triple-double against every single team in the league. New Orleans, 34-22. They're in fifth. They're playing well. They've jumped up to fifth in the Western Conference. Sixth is Dallas. The Dallas Mavericks have won 7 straight games. They are hot. They are now the 6th team in the West. They're just a game out of 5th and 4 games out of 4th in the Western Conference. 7th is the Phoenix Suns. They are the first playing team right now. They're actually same record as the Dallas Mavericks. So they're still only a game out of 5th themselves. 8th is Sacramento Kings. Half game out of 5th themselves. 9th is the Lakers. 30-27 in the last playing team is the Golden State Warriors. Been playing better. They've gotten themselves, back in the race. They were kind of almost falling out of the race completely. They're the last playing team right now. Then you got the Utah Jazz. They're 3.5 games out of the play-in. They are struggling. They've lost 5 games in a row. You have Houston, who's 4.5 games out. Then obviously Memphis, a lot of injuries this year. They're going to get healthy soon. Marcus Smart should be coming back in a few weeks. This is Bane for another 3 to 5 weeks. So you never know if they can I wonder, because they're 9 games out of the play-in, but if they're within 7 or 8 games by the time they get Bane and Smart back, could they maybe make a run at the last play-in spot, the 10 spot? I doubt it, because even though those guys were there, they were still 4, 5, 6 games out of the play-in, but you never know. But yeah, they're having a tough year, obviously. And Portland and the Spurs ran out the rest of the Western Conference. To the NBA standings. Let's go to the NHL standings. Eastern Conference. Boston Bruins have retaken the lead in the Eastern Conference with 80 points. In second is the New York Rangers, who have won 9 games in a row. They are red hot. Just beat the Devils 5-1 last night. Early on in the year, like I mentioned many times, they were the best team in the league. Then they fell off for a while, and now they've found their groove. Coming out of the break. Igor Strickland, who wasn't having his best year, to be honest, was having a bit of a down year, has gotten hot since the All-Star break. Since the All-Star break, he's 5-0. He's got a GA of just 2. He's got a 940 save percentage. He's got a shutout. He even has an assist. He's been playing with the Strickland that we all know and love. They're absolutely clicking right now. Mika Zibanejad, whose goal scoring was down this year, is picking up. Lafreniere been struggling. He's playing well. So with Capo Caco. Rangers are rolling right now. And third is Florida with 78 points. They're also playing really good hockey. Obviously had a great run to the Cup last year, and might have to do it again. In fourth is Carolina at 73 points. Fifth is Toronto with 72. They've won 6 in a row. 7 is Philly. The 8th spot is Detroit. Then you have Tampa is a point of the playoffs. We never thought I would see that. How much they've won recently. Then obviously, that's a pretty big drop from there. You have Washington 6 points out. The Devils are also 6. The Devils are a while out. They're 6 points out. Their goaltending is just not good. A lot of injuries to their defense. Jack Hughes not been able to stay on the ice. averaged just 6 points out. Obviously, they also ran a 6-5 in overtime, below 4-1 lead in the second period in the outdoor game. And, they are obviously a team. They obviously are very good defensively, but, also Sorokin hasn't had his best year this year. They just don't have any goal scoring. And, also they're playing coach roulette. They let go of Lane Lampert, who obviously didn't do a very good job. I screamed about it and didn't get it when they fired Trotz, one of the greatest coaches of all time. It's really Lake, where he's now the GM of Nashville Predators, and promoted his assistant Lane Lampert, and then not even 2 years later, Lane Lampert was average. They bring in Patrick Waugh, most obscure coaching I've ever seen. The former Hall of Fame goalie. One of the greatest goalies of all time. Had a short in Colorado. It was interesting, to say the least. He had limited success there. Had some off-the-ice stuff obviously that happened. Guy's a bit of a crazy guy. He's the coach for the Islanders right now. Hasn't really helped at all, to be honest. You have Pittsburgh, that team is ancient. And then Buffalo is Buffalo. Montreal, Ottawa obviously sucks, and then the Blue Jackets really suck. Trade deadline's starting to get a little closer in the NHL. We'll see. Might talk about that next week, most likely. Weeks back, I think I did a little kind of preview of what I thought every team needed. But I'll go a little deeper probably sometime next week. That's because now it's really creeping out. Vancouver leads the Western Conference. They're tied for the most points in the league with the Boston Bruins. They lead the West with 80 points. They've had a phenomenal year. In second is Dallas with 76 points. Third is Colorado with 75. Fourth is Winnipeg with 73 points. And fifth is Vegas with 70. In sixth is the Edmonton Oilers with 68. In seventh is Los Angeles Kings with 66 and with 67 points. The eighth spot is the Blues. Also on 7 is Nashville, but Blues got a game in hand. And you have the Seattle Kraken have fallen 8 points out. As is Calgary. Even the Minnesota, 62 points Blues and Predators have, so only 3 points out are the Kraken and the Flames. The Wild are 4 points out. They've been playing a lot better until they were struggling for a lot of the year. So they made a coaching change earlier in the year. Then you have Arizona. The Arizona Coyotes have lost 11 in a row. Well, they're back, I guess. And then the San Jose Sharks and Chicago Blackhawks round out the Western Conference. They're both really, really bad. So, a lot of baseball news happened before we get to all the signings. Nothing that major, because for whatever reason, teams are just not signing all these all-stars that are still available. But Mark Lerner said that the Nationals are no longer for sale. Like a year or two ago, he said he was looking to sell them. Looked like it was going to happen sooner rather than later. Probably even right before the trade Juan Soto, when we were talking about, they're going to be sold. Hasn't happened, and now Mark Lerner says they are no longer for sale. So he's going to keep the team. For free agency, we had a lot of stuff happen recently. A little minor stuff, to be honest. You had the Blue Jays make a couple of minor moves. They bring in Daniel Vogelbach and then Escobar minor league deals. Escobar split last year between the Mets and the Angels. He's a guy who can kind of play out all over the field, on the infield. He's a really good defender, but doesn't hit much anymore. Daniel Vogelbach, look, he's a fun player, great guy, fan favorite, great clubhouse guy, but God, is he terrible. He's supposed to be this power bat, but isn't a very good hitter. He loves just looking at the ball right down the middle. He's absolutely terrible. Obviously, not good, not running. He's not a speedy guy, obviously. Can't play a position. He's got to be a DH. He can play first, but he's only played, I think, 5 times. He's only played 5 innings of first in the last 2 years, so he's a DH who's like a 210, 220 career hitter. Give you maybe 10, 12 home runs. Is an automatic out of the ground ball. That's why I grabbed him to so many double plays, and just he's not very good. I don't even get the point of having. He shouldn't be in the league, to be honest. I mean, 2019, he had 30 home runs, made the All-Star team. Other than that, he's been a guy. He's been, maybe he gave you 220 and 18 home runs, and so you can't have him on the bench. Maybe as a power bat on the bench, maybe, because obviously he's got the ability to, if he gets a hold of one, to hit it out of the park. But, he's so cautious when it comes to swinging the bat. Like I said, he looks to pitch right down the middle. Can remember how many times last year with the Mets, 2 strikes. He just looks right down the middle. Just take the first right there. It's like, ball back, swing the bat. Right there. It's right there for you. 96 mile per hour, right over the middle. Swing the bat. So because he likes to look at the first pitch, it's not really a great approach for a pinch hitter. For a pinch hitter, you're probably getting, you're only going to see a couple pitches and you might not even stay in the game. So, you really should be, you got to go up there being aggressive. That's why a lot of times these pinch hitters, if they swing at the first pitch, you got to go up there, to be aggressive. A lot of times you're coming up late in the game in the big spot. Back before the universal DH, a lot of times you'd hit for the pitcher. A lot of the pitcher is obviously not a good hitter. Nowadays, not as many pinch hitters because of the DH, but still, maybe to get the matchup, especially later in games and later in the season. But yeah, Vogelbach not very good at baseball. So the Padres are moving Xander Bogaerts to second base. Hasan Kim will be a shortstop. So basically, they signed 3 shortstops for $1 zillion. They threw $300 million up in the trial. Who just got like a huge extension worth over $200 million like a year or two ago. They gave Tatis like 40, 50, 60 million, whatever they gave him. They gave Bogaerts $200 million, and none of them play shortstop. They signed 3 shortstops for like they might have actually spent $1 billion on those guys. Maybe not quite. Almost $1 billion on 3 shortstops. And none of them play shortstop. Machado plays third. You got Tatis last year, they moved him to right field. And now they're moving Bogaerts to second base. No reason they made move Machado. Like, Machado was always the third baseman in Baltimore. And then, late in his tenure there, he played shortstop. Said he wanted to play shortstop. Then San Diego said, we'll give you $300 million to play third base. So, obviously, he took that, because they still had Tatis over there. Luis Urias was still in their farm system. Of course, they ended up trading him. He's kind of bounced around the league, obviously. Tatis, they ended up moving him to right field last year because obviously he's had some injury concerns and he wasn't a fantastic defender. But obviously worked out because he's turned into a very good outfielder. But you paid 3 shortstops all of his money and none of them play shortstop. And because of that, you couldn't pay Juan Soto. You had to trade him to the Yankees for a solid pitcher, Michael King, and a bunch of prospects. Like what are you doing? I don't know what the Padres are doing. If some of these guys don't step up this year, AJ Preller should be out of a job. He's so overrated. I'm sorry. It's ridiculous. He spends all of his money. Nothing. Not a damn thing. But speaking of the Red Sox, because that's where Bogaerts, of course, came from, they traded John Schwarber to the Royals. I don't know why at all. Don't get it. I don't know what John Henry's doing. He likes his soccer team more than his baseball team. Good young reliever who's controllable. Don't understand at all. Cubs made a couple small signings. They signed David Peralta and Donald Smith to minor league deals. Peralta. Shout out Professor Pabst. Hi, Professor Pabst.
I heard that. I heard your podcast was on. Hopefully this mic is working.
Yes, sounds good to me.
How are you? Good to see you. I heard baseball talk down the hallway. I'm like, fantastic, some baseball talk.
Yeah, we're talking some baseball.
What do you where are we at right now? I mean, spring training is coming up.
Yeah.
I just want to introduce myself. You can introduce me. I'm your.
Yeah. So this is Professor Pabst. If we have someone back there to switch the cameras, we can get him on there.
Yeah. Or just I'm mysterious in the corner here.
Well, like, oh, there he is. But yeah, so this is Professor Pabst. He's a professor here at Sacred Heart. He works for he's high up at the Dan Patrick Show. If you heard of that,
sure.
He's involved with that. He has been for a while. I took his class. I think when I was a sophomore.
Sure.
Contemporary sports broadcasting.
Now I was never invited on your podcast, so I thought I would just walk in and invite myself.
Yeah.
It's very exciting. All right, so let's talk some baseball.
Absolutely.
Spring training is underway. I love spring training. I love turning on the TV, like in 2:00 in the afternoon, and seeing guys with number 77 running in for the bullpen in Arizona. It's just, I'm a baseball fan. I'm a Cubs fan, but I've been to spring training a few times, and whenever I see the spring training, the long tossing and the mountains in the background, or people in Florida going to the games, I really get a bang out of it.
Yeah, spring training is a lot of fun. You get to see your team's younger players and prospects and new players. Guys that your younger guys that might not be making a debut this year, but might make it in the years future.
Who's your favorite team?
I'm a New York Mets fan.
All right, so you're in good shape. That was a very wonky year. Sometimes when you get a new owner, I think what happened with the Mets, and I'm not an expert on the Mets or anything, but I think what happened is the new owner wanted to be the star, wanted to make, and wanted the fans to like him, and he spent a ton of money, which you have to respect. He's like he's blowing a lot of his dough to, and it didn't work out. So I'd be a pretty good mood if I were a Mets fan, because at least I have an owner that wants to win and is really focused on winning. I hope he doesn't make too many moves too fast. You know, pull the trigger on stuff too fast, or pull the plug on stuff too fast. But I don't know. I feel okay if I was a Mets fan.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be too great this year, but they brought in the guy in David Stearns, who's a very smart baseball guy. He's from New York, like Steve Cohen is. Both of them grew up Mets fans. They're trying to do this the right way. Finally, the Mets for years, I feel like they've kind of tried to just kind of throw money at guys and kind of tried to almost build their team through like a bunch of older guys, and it just hasn't worked. That's why they haven't had really any success ever since they were in the World Series in 2015.
I do like, though, that the Mets owner brought in a baseball guy and says, like, I'm still going to spend, but I'm going to let you control how I spend it. I think it's kind of what happened. This is a football analogy. David Tepper, the new owner down in Carolina, he wanted to make a splash. He traded up for the number 1 pick, and I think he wants to ingratiate himself with the fans so highly that they overspend or overshoot. Instead of being, I don't know, fiscally responsible is the right word, but you can't win this World Series in 1 year. I guess it could happen, but it doesn't really happen. I think you have to look at your franchise and say, how could we get and win 1 World Series? Because I'm a Cubs fan, and I can remember in 2011 when Theo Epstein took over as the GM, he sold off a bunch of players. Remember, it was like Matt Garza and guys like that. And he said to the fans, he goes, we're not going to be competitive this year, and probably not going to be that competitive next year. But if you're patient, we're going to try to win a World Series here. He said that in 2011. 2016 won a World Series. Yeah. If you're a Cubs fan and you're a Mets fan, I'd like to have 2 or 3 in a row, like the Golden State Warriors. I just want 1.
Exactly.
I need 1.
Especially you went 106 years without a World Series.
My entire lifetime, the Cubs weren't even close to a World Series, and I may have to dine out on that 2016 World Series for the rest of my life, but that's okay. Yeah. You're a Mets fan. They last won in
1986.
86. Okay, so I mean that's getting pretty far away now. We're coming up. Is that 40 years in 2 years? It'll be 40 years.
Yeah.
That's getting to be a chunk of time.
Oh yeah.
So if I'm a Mets fan, I'm like, let's be patient, let's trust this guy, and let's pick off 1 World Series in the next 5 or 6 years.
Oh yeah, but yeah, they're trying to build it the right way. Where it's gonna work, I don't know. But they didn't bring in any big contract this year, which is again that's okay. Which probably for the better. They tried doing with Scherzer and Verlander, and it completely just kind of exploded.
Look at the Arizona Diamondbacks. They don't have any big money people on the roster. No. They have a lot of good young players that wanted to win, and that they kind of caught lightning in a jug. But who knows? One thing about spring training, have you talked on your podcast about the new uniform situation yet?
I have not. That is a big topic right now.
So I've been tracking a little bit. It looks like Fanatics took over MLB uniform partnership, and they made these new baseball uniforms. If anyone's ever owned a real baseball jersey out there, they're very thick and they're very strong, and they're almost. If I said you're going to play sports in this, you're like, no, this is too thick. It's almost like a winter outfit, but they're very strong. They last a season. You could slide in them, and they could wash and come back and again. So if you ever own a real Major League Baseball jersey, they're very strong. This new thing by Fanatics, I saw them the other day. They're almost like stretchy workout gear.
Yeah, like the pants, you can see through them.
You can a little bit because they're white, and then you're playing outside, and if you have like tan legs, do the math. It's going to come through. The old uniforms were so thick you couldn't see through anything. I think it's one of those things where Fanatics made this new uniform. They said it's going to be lighter. It's going to be easier to move around. It's going to be easier to play in. Those things all could be true. Because I'm guessing when they changed uniforms back in the 50s from wool to what did they trade them to, it was better. But fans don't like, especially baseball fans, don't like drastic change. And this is drastic.
Yeah, this is a big change. A lot of players are upset with them, saying that they don't fit right. They don't feel right. The see-through pants they've had a lot of issues with. You got, a lot of fans are complaining, saying they almost look like a cheap knockoff of last year. I remember. Do you follow John Boy at all?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so they got their whole podcast. There's a bunch of guys on there. I think Trevor Plouffe's on there. I think there's some ex-players on there, and there's some other analysts on there. John Boy's on there. Jake's on there. They were like comparing, like there's like a picture, like it was like two jerseys of the Seattle Mariners, like last year from this year, and this year's almost looks like a cheap knockoff of it. Like it doesn't look as great
It
either.
looks like something you buy at a sale rack of a sporting goods store that is not the full price. Like you'd pay $45 for this jersey instead of $200. And I saw that the prices for these jerseys are going to be just like the prices last year because they are real, legitimate baseball jerseys. But if you get if you're going to spend like $200+ on a real Shohei Ohtani jersey, I want it to feel like it. I want raised stitching in my hand. I want like I could have it for a decade.
Oh yeah,
not like a workout jogger gear. Or something.
Yeah, like I got a Chris Kreider year Rangers shirt for my birthday like 2 years ago. It was a phenomenal gift. It's like a real jersey. And like I got like and now like my birthday is coming up again in the middle of March. Like I don't think I'm gonna ask for a baseball jersey. Like it's not worth it.
You know, what might be a good idea is to see if you could buy last year's stuff. Like
that's not a bad idea.
You know, maybe if you could find the sale rack or whatever, buy last because I'm assuming there's a stockpile of all this stuff. So what's up? What's coming on the rest of the podcast today? I have to go to work in a little bit.
Yeah, that's why you're here. We're just talking. Elmy Ferranti is moving very slowly. Still a lot of big names out there. So let me ask you, Professor Pabst.
Sure.
Why do you think there's guys like Cody Bellinger and Drew Montgomery? Why do you think they're still available with spring training? Just starting up right now.
Bellinger is one of the more frustrating, confusing players of the past 10 years. He started out so good with the Dodgers. I mean, he looked like a young, good-looking, very good talker superstar. He had that great season. Then he cooled off for a couple of years. Then he goes to the Cubs. The Cubs have a good season last year out of nowhere. He kind of gets back to, I wouldn't say he's a superstar, but I would say he's like a B-plus player.
Yeah, good player.
But I wonder if his agent is waiting for like an injury or waiting for something to take advantage of these teams because I thought the Cubs would have kept him. But, this is probably his last contract, his last big one. And, he had his injury issues and his issues with the Dodgers. My guess is a guy like Bellinger is trying to get that one big 6-year, $200 million contract to wrap up his career with.
Which I've heard. At one point I heard he wanted like 9 years, which obviously he's never going to get. Right. But I think you're right. He's a guy who's like, all right, I've been in the league for a while. I've had injuries. This is, he's whatever, 31, 32, or maybe a little younger. I don't know his exact age.
I'd say about 30, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he's, this is his last big deal he's going to get. So.
I think that's how you should look. And anytime you're watching sports, and this is for people listening to this and you and everybody, watch the money and the timing of the money. Like Kirk Cousins right now. What is he worth? Well, what is he worth at age 34? What is he worth if he was 28? It's completely different.
Yeah.
And, you look at Kirk Cousins, he may say, I'll take a 3-year, $100 million guaranteed deal to go here or to stay here, to stay with my family. But it's everything is based off the timing of the athlete and how good they are. It's not just like, well, I'll give Kirk Cousins a 9-year, $300 million contract. No, you wouldn't give him 9 years. You give him 4, and he'd probably be very good for you for 4 years. And same with Bellinger. Bellinger's the kind of guy like, do you think he's going to be great in 5 years or out of baseball in 5 years? I would bet on out of baseball.
More likely, yeah.
Right? I mean, no offense. So, all right, good luck with the podcast. I heard you down the hall. You're doing great.
Thank you, Professor Pabst.
See you soon.
Thank you, Professor Pabst. That's Professor Pabst. He is with the Dan Patrick Show, and he has been for a very long time. I believe his title is executive producer. He's been there for a while. Sacred Heart's got a big connection to the Dan Patrick Show as a result. So, if anybody's looking for some work opportunities, he's a guy to hit up. He's a very knowledgeable guy, so that was a cool spot that we just had of him. And shout out to Augie. He's one of the grad assistants here at Sacred Heart. He was helping me in the back through that whole thing. So, to shout out to him. He thinks I'm doing a good job, which is always great to hear that people think I'm doing a good job. Speaking of the Cubs, I was getting into this right before Professor Pabst hopped on. It's brought in David Peralta and Donald Smith on minor-league deals. Peralta, towards the end of his career, he's been around a while. A veteran outfielder. He was in Arizona for a very long time. He had a short stint in Tampa. He was with the Dodgers briefly. Doesn't have a whole lot left, to be honest. Doesn't hit much anymore, but he's still a decent outfielder. Can play all 3 spots. That's Cubs probably looking for some depth. Probably I heard the talks with Cody Bellinger haven't really gotten there very far. So I guess they're just trying to protect themselves in case they don't bring him back. So probably will help do that. And then you have Dom Smith, who's really a first baseman, but he can play left field as well. Look, he was a top prospect with the Mets. I've been very vocal. I'm not a fan of him. Yeah, you always cry for more playing time with the Mets and then go out there and hit 180. We had an okay year in Washington last year. Played a good amount of first base. Think played a little left field. He had an okay year at the plate. A little better than his last couple years with the Mets. But yeah, it's another probably guy who will compete for a bench spot for the Chicago Cubs this year. You have Pablo Sandoval, son of minor league with the San Francisco Giants. The guy once known as Kung Fu Panda has not played in the major leagues since 2021. It's been 3 years since he was in the major leagues trying to make a comeback. He has signed with the San Francisco Giants. The Phillies signed Whit Merrifield 1 year, $8 million. That was a really good signing. He's a utility guy. Can play all over the field. A little older than that, but still a decent hitter. That's a ball hitter. He's been around the while. He's got a little playoff experience. So Phillies bring him in. The Brewers re-signed Breding. We're definitely on a 2-year deal. Don't have the financial terms yet, but that's an interesting signing. He's been one of the best pitchers for the Brewers the last few. One of the better pitchers in baseball the last few years. But he had major elbow surgery after the season. This season ended. He won't pitch this year, but he will pitch in 2025. The Brewers had non-tender as a result. But no one picked him up, so they brought him back. This is a really good move for the Brewers. He belongs in Milwaukee, and he'll stay there. And he'll be, I'm sure, a major part of the rotation next year. They also re-signed Gary Sanchez. They brought in Gary Sanchez on a 1-year, $7 million deal. He's had a weird career. He came up with the Yankees. I was going to be great, just horrible defensively, obviously. He's got a great arm, but just his pitch framing is just really, really bad. When it comes to calling the game, has always struggled with that. Has trouble keeping the ball in front of him. And then, but he can hit. He's got a lot of power, but, obviously he doesn't have a lot of speed, obviously. He's been, in the Bronx. He was, labeled as kind of lazy on the base paths, although Aaron Boone, their manager, did say after when he was in Minnesota and he returned to Yankee Stadium, he said, his character was kind of misclassified by a lot of fans. I don't think he's a bad guy by any means. He got a lot of flack in New York, and I get it. It's New York. You can't, be making base running mistakes and going out there and flopping every year playing for the New York Yankees. And you can't be doing that. But, so I kind of got to an extent, but, just because, the guy's a bit of a lazy base runner doesn't mean, he's just, an arrogant guy behind the scenes, which is kind of like he was classified as, but lazy base runner, not a good defender, strikes out a lot, but will also give you 20 home runs. And I do think this is a good clubhouse guy, is a veteran. Last year he wasn't in the league. He signed somewhere, Minnesota didn't re-sign him. He signed somewhere. I forgot where it was, San Francisco or something. He didn't make the team. He cut on the Mets when they had a lot of injuries to their catchers with Narvaez and Nito were both hurt. They picked him up. He played a couple of games for the Mets. Then they let him go when they got the Nito or Narvaez back. Because originally they signed him to a minor league deal. And the whole thing with when you sign a guy to a minor league deal, like a veteran guy who should be in the major leagues, you have 2 weeks to call him up. So he was killing it in the minor leagues. And then that deadline was coming up. They either had to cut him or bring him up. So they brought him up, put a couple of games, didn't do anything super special. Only put 3 games, and then they cut him when when one of their catchers got back. Then he caught on with San Diego, and actually wasn't too bad. He got hot when he first got then he cooled off a bit, but overall he was pretty serviceable last year as a catcher, like a catcher DH option for the San Diego Padres. So now he goes to Milwaukee. So we'll see what role he filled. I'm sure he'll get some DH at bats, maybe in the platoon. But Tampa Bay Rays had Ahmed Rosario, 1 year, $1.5 million, another former Met. Last year, 2 years ago, it looked like he was a budding all-star in Cleveland, but last year didn't have a good year. It was split between Cleveland and the Dodgers. Cleveland traded him to the Dodgers at the trade deadline. Obviously, the Mets traded them for Francisco Lindor a couple of years ago. But he's trying to recover what he had a couple of years ago in Tampa. It's good, which is not a bad place to do it, because Tampa seems to be very good when it comes to, player development. The Red Sox signed Liam Hendricks, 2 years, $10 million. This is a good move. He won't pitch much, if at all, this series. Obviously, he's obviously a great story. He had some unfortunate injuries, obviously. Prior to last year starting, he's diagnosed with cancer, but then came back middle of the season. Just absolutely incredible return, incredible story. But unfortunately, he had an arm injury only a few games into his tenure. Then they had to have Tommy John, I think, in August, so he might not pitch this year. But only 2 years ago, he was one of the best closers in all of baseball. So if not this year, next year could be a big part of the Red Sox bullpen. if they're still in the race down the stretch, maybe they can get him back for the September race. Yeah, the Pirates extend Mitch Keller 5 years, $77 million. He's kind of coming to his own last couple of years. The Marlins signed Tim Anderson 1 year, $5 million. Again, it's kind of like a no risk, high reward kind of thing. He had a horrible year last year, barely hit over 200, maybe 230. He was punched in the face as many times as he hit home runs. But the year prior was basically a perennial batting champion. He's a 2-time All-Star. He's a guy who was always hitting over 300 every single year. He's won at least one batting title, if not two, with the White Sox in his career. Maybe he rebounds. So I think it's a good deal for Miami. Worst case, he could be a trade chip from Miami, who might not be as good as they were last year. They snuck in the playoffs. I think they're gonna regress a bit this year. They're a tough division too. They are at best maybe the third best team in that division, fighting with the Mets. I do think Miami's better than the Mets. I don't think the Mets are gonna be very good, but Miami, they are just they're a frustrating franchise. I cannot imagine being a fan of them. There's not many. There's probably only about 12 fans of them in the entire world, but I can't imagine being a fan of them. As soon as they get good, like all this young talent, they just throw it away. Not sure why Kim Young lost her job. I still am just bamboozled why that is the case. And the Detroit Tigers signed Gio Urshela. 1 year, $1.5 million. This is a good move for the Tigers. He's a really good defender at third base. Can play all over the field. Can hit a little bit. Now, obviously, he had some good years with the Yankees. Was recently with the Angels, where he's had some injuries. But speaking of the Angels, Anthony Rendon's had some comments that ruffled some feathers. He's obviously got that albatross of a contract, that 7-year, $245 million contract that he signed prior to the 2020 season. Has aged very poorly. He's played like on average like 60 games a year. Might even be like a total of 60 games the last 3 years. He cannot stay on the field. He's not been the same player. No, but he's clashed with fans. And he said, that baseball is not a top priority for him as his family and faith is. He said, this is just a job for me. To me, this is very frustrating. This is the problem with the modern day athlete. They don't take it as seriously as the guys back in the day did. This dude, by the way, his contract is 7 years, $245 million, and he's done nothing for them. Absolutely nothing. When they signed, they thought they were going to have Trout, Ohtani, and Rendon in the row in that lineup. That's a murderer's row type lineup, and he screwed the whole thing up. Because every year he goes out there, he hits freaking 230, and then gets shut down after 60 games because he keeps getting hurt. He's been absolutely terrible. He might have the worst contract in baseball. He's got like 3 years and like 130, 140 something left on this year. It's brutal. This guy doesn't even care about baseball. What an absolute joke. Anthony Rendon, what a joke. You got Mike Trout, who, is literally, his body is breaking down from carrying a team for years. Every year he's going out there hitting 300 with 35, 30 homers, 120 RBIs, winning a Gold Glove in center field, Hall of Fame center fielder, and just not making the playoffs because his team is just so bad. The front office just refused to put any talent around him. Even now with Ohtani gone, they're going to be absolutely horrible. Probably he still was willing to stay, although he did just say, they got to bring in some guys. He finally is, being like, guys, I've been trying to be loyal, but it's getting ridiculous. But still, he's been super loyal. You got Anthony Rendon's like, wait, I have to do this 3 times a week? Seems like a lot. Like, dude, shut up and play baseball. I'm sorry. That's what he needs to do. Those comments drove me nuts. What a joke. Hyun-Jin Ryu has signed. He's going back to Korea, where he started his career. He's signed with the Eagles in Korea. He had a 4-year deal, which is worth $12.7 million. In like Korean money, I think it's like a couple billion, but the money works definitely out in Korea. So in American dollars, it's 4 years, $12.7 million, makes him the highest paid pitcher over there. So he goes back to Korea. And last bad thing I'll leave you guys with is the college football playoff. They made a slight change. They're struggling to 12 teams next year, but it's gonna be 5 conference winners and 7 at-large bids. So obviously, whoever wins I assume it's gonna be whoever wins the SEC, whoever wins the Big 10, the Big 12, ACC, and from there, I don't know who the other conference is gonna be, because the Pac-12 is no longer a thing basically. So I don't know if it's gonna be. I know they're gonna try and like steal some Mountain West teams and like merge or something. And some that large, so that'll be interesting how it works out. And then in a couple years down the line, like 2026 or something, they might go to 14 teams. So we'll see how that works out. But that's all we got for you guys today. Until next time, so long. And have a great day.